This second video addresses the reason I questioned my faith in the first place. My first video describes why I'm making these videos and starts with what I believed. I would encourage you to start with that one, if you haven't already seen it. By the time I would question my beliefs, I had already been in college for a few years. At the time, I was dating a lady who was very disciplined in her belief. She studied the Bible every night, kept a journal of what she read. To this day her faith still amazes me, and she inspires me to keep a journal of my own to help me as I read the Bible. I said in my last vid that I hadn't read the Bible, and that I still haven't read the whole of the Bible, but I'm reading the Bible now. Anyway, she and I regularly stayed up late discussing things, and her thoughts often turned to the Bible, particularly as she would have just read it, or was in the process of reading it. I remember one night she confessed sadness that Jesus had saved everyone with his sacrifice, but not those who had come before him. I don't know if she only meant for the time they had been in hell, and I don't know if she knew that Jesus had gone to hell and rose them from hell in forgiveness. All I do know is that when I had learned of that, my first thought was to tell her and comfort her in her distress about them. Of course, by the time I had learned it, however, we had already separated, and attempting to talk to her for any reason was far too difficult to consider for long. She had also expressed guilt that she sinned even wanting her roommate's cats. She felt bad for little things that seemed insignificant to me. I couldn't understand why these things would be wrong, and yet according to her the Bible clearly states that they were. She was convinced that she was a sinner, and that she could only be saved by God's grace. It seemed harsh to me, and it made me wonder just what the Bible really said. My next girlfriend would be yet another very religious person, and like the previous, she convinced me to go to church on a few occasions. As she and her family lived in the area, I got to know them all. They were good people. Her father had once been a preacher, and as far as I understand he still works closely with the church. He is certainly still very religious, and to this day, is often posting prayer publicly. The thing was, his daughter, who I was dating, had a hard time with me not being a regular at church. Her view was that it was something we must do, and yet as we discussed it, she came to the conclusion that, since her own father didn't go to church anymore, it must not be a bad thing after all. I had never seen church as a requirement, and it seemed an odd requirement that we had to go to a specific place, to a man-made building, to worship a being who was all-present, who created the natural world. Her father, though he was no longer a preacher, still loved to preach, and regularly when I'd visit their place he would engage me in discussion. He particularly loved to tell about his past, as all old men do. He would tell me of the sermons he was more proud to have made, and things he had done. He had gone to seminary, he loved to hike and to climb, he was very active in his youth, and he led a good life. Even now I still look up to him in many ways. I remember one day in which he told me that he had to believe everything in the Bible, for if any of it was wrong, he couldn't trust any of it to be right. It seemed reasonable at the time, but it still got me to thinking yet again what this book actually said. His daughter had been very encouraging that I take a more active role in learning about God, and as such had gotten me a study Bible that kept notes about the many passages of what they meant, and where the translation might not be perfect, and why they translated it the way they did. So I started reading it, and I started a journal to help me through it as my former girlfriend had once before. It was, and is still very slow going. I've always had trouble with required reading. I haven't even read Lord of the Flies or To Kill a Mockingbird as required from school. Even though I have abandoned the faith, I still read the Bible out of curiosity. The thing was, the study Bible she had given me stated very early on that it is generally accepted that the first so many books or even just chapters had been gathered and written by Moses. That later books were gathered and written by David, then by Solomon. The study Bible itself says that the Bible was written by men, not by God. And that struck me as odd, coupled with her father's claim that all of it must be true, or else none of it might be true. But if man is fallible, how could he have wrote a perfect book? If the writing was guided by God, would that violate free will?